Hello, welcome to Scrivosphere. So here we are again with another video. Now, today's video is Lucifer. We're going to have a talk about the general series of Lucifer, but we're also going to be talking about season 5. There is going to be spoilers ahead, so let's get to it. Hello, welcome to Scrivosphere. I'm Ryan, same as always. So what we're talking about today? Well, as you're already aware, we're talking about Lucifer. Now, I've got the DC Comics book behind me for a reason. That it is a DC property. People forget that Lucifer is DC. But it's very different from what we're used to. So we're just going to be talking about the TV series in general for a little bit, and then I'll go on to my review of season 5. There will be spoilers for the whole series. So let's get started. So what is Lucifer about? Well, Lucifer is about Lucifer. Now, the main character of Lucifer moves to LA after time in hell and decides to live a life in LA where he's some rich British sex god type thing. That's what it comes across as in that first series. He's sleeping around, he's having fun, and nothing really, nothing really affects him. He's the devil at the end of the day. So the series starts out. He's at his club Lux, and you get Amenadiel, who comes down from above, frees his time, has a chat with Lucifer saying, God wants you back in hell. That's how the series starts, and it sets it up very nicely. But it sets up that first episode doesn't just set up the story rolling with Lucifer and God. It sets up the love story of Lucifer and Detective Chloe Decker. They meet. And it's very much like Lucifer has this thing where he just turns to somebody and says, what do you desire? And it's like, sorry, that was my terrible Lucifer impression there. But that's what he does. He goes up to people and says, what do you desire? And it's kind of, it's slick. It's sexy. I'm a straight man, but I can appreciate where women come from when they say that they're finding a guy hot. So that's the side of me. Anyway, Lucifer is he has this thing where he can ask people what their desires are, but when he asks Chloe Decker, nothing. There is no response. In most cases, people say, "I just really want money." Or I really want to have sex with you. In some cases, when he asks the women, it's a case of like, I really want hot, steamy sex with you, sort of thing. But that doesn't work on Chloe Decker. You find out later on in the series it's because she's a God's miracle type thing where her parents couldn't have kids. God decided that Lucifer, if ever he went to Earth, would need somebody to tie him down. That is basically what I think when Chloe finds out, that's what she initially thinks, and I think that's what we get at when we watch the show, that's why God did it. But there's a lot of story to it. There's a lot more to it. It sort of starts out with just Lucifer being a consultant for the LAPD, but as it goes on, you get a sense that Lucifer's changing, and Chloe's changing as well. And that is a big part of season 5. As the show goes on, you get Detective Douche, and you get Ella. You get all these characters that really impact the way that the show heads and the way that the show goes. You had Kane come into it, played by Tom Welling, which wasn't a nice surprise because obviously that was Tom Welling returning to his DC roots, so to speak, because obviously He did Smallville for 10 years, from 2001 to 2011. He was there doing Smallville. So, so it was nice to have him come back to the DC universe in some way, shape, or form. But, all these characters that have come into it have affected Lucifer in one way or another. Whether it be the way his character is, how he decides to deal with things. When he found out that Chloe loved him, and that there's a lot of he disappears to Las Vegas, gets married. There's a Mrs. Lucifer, which is one of the Mrs. Morningstar, which is one of the episodes, which is it's a fun episode. But you get all these little things that go on and on and on, and it's like, just kiss, just get together. Boy, when season 4 ended, at the start of season 4, Chloe knew. And it was problematic for a while, because obviously Lucifer, she was scared, and she went to a priest, and he was like, "Yeah, we're gonna get rid of Lucifer. I think that we're gonna get him back to hell," and she agreed for it. She went for it, but then when she came back and she was with Lucifer, well, not with Lucifer, but she went back to the usual Lucifer, helping her with the detective work, their partners. That, for me, was a shock factor, because it's like Chloe comes back and it's like, oh my god, don't you dare. Don't do it, Chloe. Please don't do it. Obviously, that doesn't happen, because Chloe realises just how much she loves him. At the end of season 4, they kiss, but Lucifer realises he has to go back to hell, because they need a leader. Something which is dealt with in season 5 quite well as well is why Lucifer's able to come home, and why there's no problem with Lucifer being home and stuff like that. But one thing I did, I just realised that I left out, was that Chloe makes Lucifer vulnerable. Lucifer is invulnerable to anything. In the first episode, one of his friends, some would say his client, but one of these people that he's helped out, like the whole story of deal with the devil. Well, it's not necessarily a deal. It's more the fact that Lucifer has connections in this show, and that allows him to give people what they want to a certain extent. So, that is what the show entails. It's a very different kind of style to the usual sell your soul to the devil type storyline that they do with Lucifer nowadays. But what's interesting is that, so Lucifer, in that first episode, his friend gets shot, who he helped to start him. Lucifer gets shot at the same time, but then he wakes up and everything's fine. But you start to find out as the series goes on that Chloe makes him vulnerable, and he's able to get hurt. So that's something that is later on talked about in season 5. So, just before we carry on, the usual drill. Please like, comment and subscribe on my channel. It is much appreciated. And click that notification bell if you want to be notified when my videos are uploaded. Let's continue. And we're back. Okay, so season 5 of Lucifer. Now this is part 1. There was a lot going on with season 4. Season 3 ended, it was cancelled. Season 4, Netflix brought it for a final 2 seasons, I believe they said. I think they initially wanted season 4 to be the last. And the way it ended, they could have easily ended it with Lucifer back in hell and that's it. But no, they decided to carry on with season 5. And season 5 was meant to be the last. Now, they're contracted for 6. So there's a 6th season coming. And there's a part 2 to season 5. So we've got quite a lot to unpack. The first 8 episodes of season 5, it's slow to start with, but then it picks up. It picks up so much. You get Dan finding out about Lucifer. Finally, and it's not even because of Lucifer that he finds out about Lucifer. That's the fun part of this. Dan finds out about Lucifer. That there's the whole dealing with Linda dealing with her baby and how her and Amenadiel have carried on. It's quite funny that Amenadiel is actually the owner of Lux, or he's looking after Lux while Lucifer's away. So that's what he's doing. So there's Linda on her own, having to deal with the Knights and that, and Amenadiel seems to do this sort of detective thing during the series. They have the Detective of Hermenadil episode, which is a very good episode. It's a very key episode in the series, I think, to do an episode like that so late in the show. But yeah, so there's this sort of storyline with Amenadiel where he's sort of being this detective. Lucifer comes back when he finds out that Chloe's in trouble. And it's really good how they do it. Lucifer's there, he comes back and he's whistling the theme tune. He's like, that probably didn't sound anything like it. But he's whistling the theme tune, he comes back, he says Chloe, he's hugging her. But then it goes back to, this is the end, towards the end of the first episode. This is where I said there would be spoilers. And it was revealed in the trailer that it was coming. So I thought it would have been more interesting if they hadn't revealed it, because then it'd be like, who the bloody hell is this guy? But you find out it goes back to Lucifer and he's still in hell, and he says some key words. He says that Chloe is fine, she can look after herself. But then there's a version of Lucifer on Earth who saved her. So who is he? Well, he's Michael. He's Lucifer's twin brother, Michael, who's got an American accent. He sort of does this weird shoulder thing where he's like this. He looks a bit stimpy and, welcome to America and all this. And it's a little bit like that. Whereas Lucifer's more postured and he's more like, what do you desire? British style. That's not British. But anyway. So yeah, that's where the story goes. You get this block of Lucifer being in a place where he's still in hell. They have to get on with it, sort of thing. They finally get together, Lucifer and Chloe, in this series, and it's brilliant. But towards the end of the series, Michael really messes with Chloe's head. It's in the final episode, and it's like they actually start to realise that Lucifer hasn't actually said that he loves Chloe, but Chloe has said it to Lucifer. And he's about to say it, and then time freezes. Amenadiel is all of a sudden be able to freeze time. Now, I don't think it is Amenadiel. It could be something to do with God. On his way down, he decided to freeze time. Because at the end of the episode, they're fighting, and you've got Michael and Lucifer and Amenadiel about to punch each other to hell. Like, obviously, Lucifer and Amenadiel on the same time. You've got Maze, who is now on the side of Michael, which, stupid cow. Stop. Sorry, but no. So, and there was this big story with Ella that I have to talk about. They gave Ella a very nice boyfriend, and it was loving. It was so nice. And and these last two episodes was connected in a nice way. The one before last had Chloe taken by an unseen person, and you're thinking it's the killer from that episode, because they go after these people that are powerful and smart women, and that's what he's going for. That's the motive. But when it comes to it, they realise that it's actually not the person that's doing it. I mean, the original one, the killer in the 7th episode is a copycat killer. He's a copycat of this geezer that uses flowers and puts them to sleep and paralyses them and stuff like that. So he's a copycat killer, and when you find out that it's actually Ella's boyfriend who is actually the killer, this journalist who's gotten close to Ella, who genuinely, in a sycophant kind of way, genuinely likes Ella, he's the cause of these killings, but he's not the one that took Chloe. Michael took Chloe. And they find Chloe, and I'm thinking, wow, okay, is that it? They find Chloe, is that it? I really thought they were going to end the series where Lucifer generally cannot find Chloe. And that was how the cliffhanger would be. Now, the cliffhanger is God returns to Earth, stops the fighting between Lucifer and Menadil versus Michael. God comes down and stops that. So there is a lot, and there's probably a lot I haven't actually unpacked in this season. Oh, that's the one thing I mentioned earlier, that Chloe makes Lucifer vulnerable. And it's actually really funny that there's a sort of Smallville sort of feeling to this one little bit. It's where Lucifer and Chloe have slept together. And all of a sudden, Lucifer can't do his desire thing. And, you know, they're in bed on the morning, and Chloe does, she pretends to be Lucifer, asks Lucifer what his desire is, and he says, well, I want to sleep with you 3 or 4 more times. Genuinely. And it's like, it's passed over for a minute, you know, Lucifer thinks about it and thinks, she got that out of me really good. She's really good, and all this stuff. But then you later on find out, like, you know, Chloe's like, can you do your thing for me? Lucifer can't, and then Chloe does it. And it's like, what the hell's going on? And then all of a sudden, Chloe can't do it, and Lucifer can't do it. And it's worrying, but then Lucifer can do it. But the one big thing, right, is that when Dan finds out about Lucifer, Michael approaches Dan and tells him that Lucifer is dangerous. You've got to kill him. So he gives him a gun. And obviously Dan has seen Lucifer get injured before because of Chloe. Dan shoots Lucifer at the end of an episode. And it's like, oh my god, has he actually just killed Lucifer? In the next episode he wakes up. There's not a scratch on Lucifer. Lucifer can no longer... Now, I believe it's around about the same time they discovered that Lucifer decides to be vulnerable around Chloe. Not that he has to be. So, there's a subconscious thing that says, well, he just switches the light off. Basically, he just switches the light. He just switches the switch off. And all of a sudden, he's vulnerable around Chloe. Is he invulnerable around Chloe? And I think that gets into Chloe's head a little bit when Michael says about the whole, you know, as he said, I love you. So, that was a big storyline, and I'm surprised. I'm really looking forward to where they go with it now. Obviously, at the end of the show, at the end of this episode, you had Maze and Michael versus Lucifer and Amenadiel. But before that, you know, Chloe questions Lucifer about, does he love her? And he's about to say it, and he goes, Chloe. I think he does say Chloe for once, instead of detective. But you're sitting on the edge of your seat saying, Lucifer, just say it. Please, Lucifer, just say it. And it's like, he goes, and then it's like, Chloe? And he's going like this, and he's like, oh, and he goes out and he approaches him, and it's like, wow, what a perfect time to choose this. And then it's like, you know, they look over at the child, and it's like, Lucifer, look at the child. Look at the child. And he's frozen. The child's human. Yeah, the child's human. Yeah, I have to think about that then. Was it the other way around? The child is human. And they have a fight. God comes down and it's like, you know I don't like you fighting. And it's like big, and it's like, what? They can't end it there. So, yeah, so sorry about the shaky camera thing. I'm on a table that's not very level. So you sometimes get these noises and the shaky camera, so I'm sorry about that. So yeah, so that is what they did with Lucifer. I love the way they're going with this show. But there's a problem, and it's a very small problem, and it's just me in my head. I am worried about the way it's going to head. Like, where can they go with it? Are they going to ruin it? How can it end? Is it going to end with Lucifer still doing it? I think so. It's going to have to end where it's like Lucifer and Chloe are together, and everything in hell is fine. Everything is out in heaven is fine. Everything on earth is fine. It's like this triangular sort of thing, and it just ends like that, where everything's perfect. Everything keeps going, because they can't stop it where Lucifer's in hell, and Chloe's dead in heaven, and you know, and Amenadiel's back up in heaven, and Linda's on her own with the baby, and Macy's back in hell. They can't do it where it resets everything, basically back to the start of the series. They can't do that, because then it feels like an absolute shit show where it's literally just a waste of time. So I am worried about the way that could end. I'm hoping that they have got plans for it. So yeah, this was my Lucifer video. Again, this wasn't a planned video. This was just something that I came up with on a whim. Trying to stay current with the times of what's coming out at the minute. So my next video, I'm going to talk about The Boys Season 2 now. The Boys Season 1, I can't really remember all that much. I might have to watch The Boys Season 1 and then watch The Boys Season 2. Just to get the whole story, so then I can talk to you about what happens in Season 2. I am also going to be doing an Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. video. I recently watched the end of that. I was quite late to the game, and my dad has only just started watching it. My dad is currently on Season 4, coming towards the end of Season 4. So I'm actually re-watching it with my dad at the minute. So there's a lot of information that I'm taking in doubly. But I'm going to just have a quick talk about how they ended it. What I think they did right, what I think they did wrong. There's a few things that I think they could have done more of. But it was quite a phenomenal ending to the show. It felt right. And it's a way that I hope that Lucifer can sort of do with the way that they ended Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Anyway. That's my video. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. And I'll see you soon for another video of Scrivo Sphere. Thank you and goodbye.